Greetings and welcome back to CS295. This is week 7, Web Dev 2, and we are finishing up what we need to know about databases, right? So we talked about the creation of the database, the table, inserting data, and then a little bit of selecting. So we'll kind of review selecting for a second, but then we'll also go with updating and deleting. Now again, this was just going to show you these base commands, kind of how to build this. Because the next couple of weeks we're going to show you how to use PHP to do these commands, right? So there's a reason why I'm not using a GUI, as I hopefully mentioned before, because you need to type the commands when you use PHP, right? So that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're just using a little SQLite database. So again, we'll kind of jump into it. Let me show you what we have for the file we've been working with, right? So we open this testDB. Show the tables. We have a test table, and then I selected everything on it so we can see what we have in our files, right? What do we have for that? So, and then if you want to, right, we want to know what those actual rows are called. We have ID, item 1, and item 2, right? So, just so we know what we're looking at as we go through to update everything, these are the contents of it. And then the actual titles as we're going to go through and use this as well. So there is already a select statement, right? To remind you to select, you just select and then what you want to select. So if you put star, it selects everything. And then from what table you want to. Now we can narrow this down as well. So if I want to just check if everything's greater than a certain number, right? So we have an integer here, so we could do something like this. So select, in this case we'll do star again from test, and then we use the where command to narrow it down. So let's do where item 1 is greater than, let's say 300. Right, so that should return just these two. Let's not forget our semicolon. And there we go, right? 400 and 500 is greater than. So we can narrow it down. We can say where ID equals, and if you hit the up arrow, go back to what you're doing, right? So where ID equals 2. Right now, this is not a string, so you'll notice there's no quotes. So we'll go ahead and run this. And again, ID 2. Now, a lot of the times, and I'll mention this now, because when you use PHP, you start building stuff. This is what you end up using a lot, is the ID. So you might build a page with the ID, and then as you're sending the data, we talked about the posts and everything like that, you'll have that ID that you can then send back to the page, run a query, and grab just that file that you've been working with, right? So that is useful information to do. And let's do one more where we just select, and again, you can pick just one. So let's do item 2 from, from test, where, and then let's do item 2 this time. So item 2 equals, and there's more details. You can do a lot more research, but really dictates on what you're trying to do. We can do like, or it contains and stuff like that. There's a lot of different commands, but for now we're just focusing on if it's equal to whatever we want it to equal. So where item 2 is equal to, and in this case item 2 is a text, so we need to put quotes around it, right? So this should return us this one right here, and really just, no, item 2 equals error here. Oh, I think I use a bunch of different programming languages. There we go, okay. So you got to use single quotes, not double quotes. But the point is, it is a string, so you have to use those single quotes. And there we go, they returned this one, which we could have done all, but we only returned just the name. As we learn, there's different ways, and I don't have it all memorized off the top of my head because each language does differently, but you have the ability to say, all right, wildcard, show me everything with that, which if that worked correctly would have returned this, although I guess probably would have to use the word like. So again, there's lots of different commands. There we go, you have to use the word like for that. To do these advanced select statements. I'm not going to go with everything, but just know they're out there, right? Know there's a bunch of different ways to select. I mean, I would definitely, if you want to do this more and you really want to get into this the right way, I would take a whole database class. But this is the basic, right? If you really just want to build a simple web page that can do a little bit of stuff just to get used to it and then go out and learn more. Remember, this really is just an introductory course into these simple concepts. Why we're using SQLite, not MySQL, right? It's just to kind of show you what is out there for this. So there's select. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the main select again, so we see what's in here closer, and then we're going to start going into some of the other pieces, right? So the updates and delete, right? What if a user wants to update a password? What if a user needs to update an address? Whatever you're trying to, what if you don't update a score because you built a game? How do we get that to do it, right? So you'll use a lot of these when building a web page, depending on what you're doing. A lot of times it selects, you select information and put on the web page, but you might need to insert a new user, insert a new score, right? Whatever you're doing, and doing that in the web makes that a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and look at an update. So the key command for this one is update, and then again, whatever you want to update, right? So this is the table. So in our case, test, again, whatever the table name is, and then we are going to set another keyword, and now we kind of go through each of these pieces. So I'm going to do item 2, all right? I'm going to update item 2, and then equals, and let's go ahead and change hello world to sup3. All right, so let's change that. So we're going to change it to sup3. Now the problem is, if you run this command like it is, it's going to change all of them, right? Because this is just an update command, and we didn't say which ones we want to, right? So it's going to do all of item 2. Now maybe you want that, right? Maybe you're resetting everyone's password to something, or resetting everyone's score to 0, and lots of different things. I've used it to reset a flag. So if the users of the website do something, it triggers a flag off, so I know. But then every year I need to turn that flag back on so they can read it again. So again, maybe you do want to do this, but we're gonna, I already mentioned we want to only do where it says hello world. So where item 2 equals, and in single quotes, hello world, single quote, semicolon. And I got to do, so used to using double quotes for everything. All right. Now again, you don't see anything, right? There's no success, and again, kind of like a web page, depending on how you're programming, you don't see anything, right? You don't know that it worked. That's why a lot of times you're going to do something like this, and you can see that it worked, right? It was hello world, and then now it's this. And you can do all kinds of different things. Like I could say anything that's over a certain number gets changed to that. So let's go ahead and do that one. So where item 1, select, sorry, update, where item 1 is greater than, and let's do 300, and we can then say item 2, so these two are greater than 300, which you can kind of see I've already done this before. Alright, so we go back of user arrow key, and again I got to make this a single quote anyway, so greater than 300, and we run this, neat constraint thing. Oh, okay, so what it's whining about is I did make it so each of these need to be unique. So because both of these were greater than 300 and they need to be unique, it's saying I can't change them because I can't change the two things. And that unique feature is useful, for IDs and usernames, stuff like that, where emails, right? People should not have this, whatever people should not have the same of. So I think that's why I did the 450. So let's do 450. Let's do 425, so it actually showed different. All right, so greater than 425, which will give us the same result. All right, so greater than 450, 500 is greater than 425 as well. All right, so that ran. We do our select statement, and there we go. So we could do stuff where, again, the constraints of this little test database don't allow us to do it, but you could see where we could, anything that's over a certain number, change them all, right? So there's some kind of criteria, change everything like that. So again, depending on what you're trying to do, I can't show you every possible scenario, but know that there's ways to do it. So you do your research on what that is, and you'll have the ability to make the changes that you need to make. All right, the last thing we're going to work on is delete. So if you need to delete something, add a user, a score, or whatever, this deletes the whole row, right? If you want to get rid of something in here, or you just want to delete that, then that's an update, right? It's not actually delete. If you want to delete a row. Now this one's really got to be careful too, because if you don't use it correctly, you can delete the whole thing, which maybe that's what you want to do, right? You want to reset everything, delete it all. So if you just want to delete everything, right, the command is delete, and then from, so those are the keywords, and then test. Now if I just ran that, it'd delete all the rows. But I don't want to do that. So this is a good example where I can use the where command to say where item 1 is greater than 300, and this should delete the 1 and the 2. Alright, so my semicolon, got no errors that time, do my select statement, and then 1 and 2 are gone. Now here's something interesting, which I won't do, but you can run an insert command. It's not going to use these 1 and 2 again, it'll jump to 5, right? So just FYI, that's how most databases work. They don't reuse anything, they just keep going on. Whatever should be next is the next one it uses. But that's it, right? So you most likely are going to want to use a delete here. And again, not too often on a web page do I use the delete command. It's morally when I'm on the back end and I just want to delete everything for refreshing. And again, because you also want people, you want to be careful with what you give access to people with. And again, this is why I highly, highly recommend that you take a course on databases and do more research, because there's all kinds of security settings that you need to worry about for setting it up. But again, I'm just trying to teach you how you can use it. So whether you know if you want to use it or not use it, or if you want to do more research, or just kind of get started to get excited about it. Again, this really is just the basics of how to use all this, and then you'll see in the next couple weeks I'll show you how to integrate that. And this is why I've been doing all this stuff, is because you need these commands, right? You need these commands in order to be able to work this. So with that, that's all I have for this lesson. Next couple lessons we'll be seeing how do we put this to combine with the PHP that we've been learning. All right, have a good one. We'll see you next time.